بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
How did your Muslim identity, because a lot of the times comedy is often intertwined with being vulgar, having to curse a lot, having to talk about sex, you know, always speaking about private parts. A lot of comedians struggle to be funny without being vulgar.
Mm.
So how are you able to kind of mediate between being Muslim and doing comedy?
I mean, I was pretty vulgar, and I think I dip into being vulgar here and there with my stand up. And I think of it as, is it haram to be vulgar? I don't know if it's strictly forbidden in Islam to say something vulgar with the intention of being funny. I mean, I'm sure it's in the gray area. I'm sure it's, to throw a little makruh, which means, it means not preferred. But it's not haram. Something can be makruh, but it doesn't mean it's forbidden. Like smoking cigarettes, for example, is makruh. It's not hardcore forbidden. It's not like alcohol, but it's bad for you and you shouldn't do it.
I
So
would
that's how yeah, go
I
ahead.
mean, I would push back with you and say that there are things that indicate that being vulgar in your speech is haram, and it's not a sign of or it's not a good sign of a Muslim to be a Muslim is not a la'an, and a Muslim is not a cursor.
Interesting. I don't know. I mean, I also think there are exceptions that can be made. Is it battle to go on stage? Obviously not. But there is exceptions, clearly. Um, and I'm not celebrating anything if I'm being vulgar. I don't think if I'm ever talking about something vulgar, I don't know that I'm in support of it. So, yeah, I mean, this is a good question. What are your thoughts? If you were to be a Muslim comedian, how would you talk honestly on stage? Or would you talk honestly on stage about things like sex, or would you completely avoid it?
I mean, that I even struggle with this podcast as to how far I can go. Here's my thought with what you're doing, right? Is these are minor sins that we're talking about. They're not major. You're not sitting there backbiting or having sex or having sex outside of marriage or drinking and stuff like that. You're just your speech isn't Islamic, quote unquote, right? Necessarily
Right.
because you're doing stand-up comedy. But in my mind, at least me personally, and I'm not a scholar and I don't represent the Muslim community. I'm just representing myself right now. You going out there and portraying us in a new light, in a new brand,
Mm.
outside of the way the media looks at us, you making people laugh and loving you, therefore loving Islam, because they're like, wait, I hate Muslims. And then it's like, don't you like Ismail Loutfi? And they're like, oh, wait, yeah, I guess I don't hate Muslims too much, right? Like the positive effect you're
Sure.
having on the view of Islam outweighs, in my opinion, these minor sins that we're discussing.
Yeah, God willing. I mean, that's really sweet of you to say. I would I would hope so. I would hope that's the case. Because I mean, I've had that. I've had that happen after shows where somebody has come up to me and been like, "Oh, I was in Afghanistan and I hated Muslims, but I thought you were really funny and I liked you." So I have experienced that, which is I've never thought of it in this way of like, I hopefully that's counterbalancing whatever haram I'm committing on stage by cussing.
What has been your relationship with God throughout this entire journey? How long have you been doing stand up for?
Been doing comedy for 10 years. 10
MashaAllah.
years. And I guess I grew up very, very religious, but I didn't internalize it. Because when you're a kid and you're growing up, did you grow up religious? I feel like you grew up really
Yeah,
in a devout family.
yeah.
Where's your family from, by the way? You look
Egypt.
Algerian. Egypt. There you go. Yeah. So you can grow up really religious, but then you don't like you feel it, but you don't internalize it, kind of. And that's how it was for me for a long time. Like I was religious. I thought of myself as I'm a good Muslim. Um, Maybe 5 years into stand up, I realized that I didn't. that I don't really pray. And I'm not really that committed to spirituality or to, memorizing surahs, chapters of the Quran, stuff like that you do when you're a little kid and it's sort of forced upon you. I realized I had let kind of go away, right? Even though I didn't drink, I wasn't doing this, I was that. So in my mind, I was like, I'm still a Muslim. And it wasn't until I befriended Ramy Youssef, very successful Muslim comedian too. Who I wonder what your thoughts are about Ramy, talking about sex. But it wasn't until I met Ramy that I started praying 5 times a day. We probably started being friends maybe 6 years ago. And he prayed 5 times a day. He was like, you gotta pray. You gotta wake up for Fajr, bro. And then I started doing it because of him. So I've definitely become way more devout over the last 6-ish years, since I had him in my life and we became friends. Because I realized it's possible. I realized, you can pray Maghrib at a comedy show. You just have to find a weird place where no one will find you. You know what I mean? But if you put the effort in, you can pray 5 times a day. You can actually fulfill these requirements that are obligatory upon us, right? So I've only become, God willing, only become more religious as time has gone on.
You said he had such a positive effect on you. He influenced you in many ways or convinced you to start praying again. That's pretty cool. I didn't know that, Ramy would be like
Yeah.
that. So I'm interested.
Yeah, you wouldn't think it, right? He's a real cool cat, but that's the truth of it, man. Like, I met him and we met at Eid prayer in Los Angeles years ago, and we've known each other forever. And it was cool to just like immediately meet this guy, and he immediately felt like a cousin, immediately was like, oh, this is my aunt Ghazal's son. Like, that's how it felt. And we just started hanging out, and real positive influence for sure, because he's a very light guy. He feels like a ray of light. Ramy's done a lot. I'll say this: Muslim celebrities employ Muslim comedians a lot. So I really, you gotta love them. They're good folks.
That's awesome. Did you work with him on the show, Ramy?
Yeah, we were. Well, neither of us have worked on the show Ramy, but we both worked on a new project that he's got going on. That's an animated show that's about a Muslim family after 9/11. So
Is that on Netflix? Is that the one that's?
it's not out yet. It comes out in, I don't know, a year or two. I'm not totally sure when it comes out, but
Oh,
yeah.
very cool.